I'd like to introduce our panelists for the competitions segment of today's event. Representing Atlanta Junior Golf, the Executive Director, Mr. Blaze Wanamaker. We have Scott Burrows, who's the Tournament Director for the Southeastern Junior Golf Tour. Stephen Hamblin, Executive Director of the American Junior Golf Association. John Godwin, Director of Player Development for the U.S. Kids Golf, PGA Master Professional, and also 2004 PGA National Junior Golf Leader. Jeff Fages, our Director of Rules and Competitions for the Georgia State Golf Association. And Bob Longmire, CEO and founder of Junior League Golf and the PGA Junior League. Welcome to the summit there, fellas.
Thank you.
To start things off, when we decided to put this summit together, junior golf encompasses a lot of different things, and ultimately it's, the kids make their way to competition as they become more versed in the game, and even at the basic levels, one kid's looking at the next kid, comparing themselves to them, and even in that sense, that's just the beginning elements of competition. So I wanted to bring these fellows in to talk about the role that competition plays in the development of junior golf, some of the roadblocks and the hurdles that they run into, are kind of prime examples of some of the things that as golf instructors and program managers and whatnot, the kind of things that we face too. I've got a whole slew of kind of general questions for you guys, and I'd welcome you to step in as you see fit and have insight on. I'd like to start with, what is the role of competitive play in the development of junior golfers, and where does it fit in the equation? Okay.
Our mission is the development of young men and women who aspire to earn a college golf scholarship through competitive junior golf. So everything that we do as an organization revolves around providing a platform for exposure for these young men and women. As we know, high school golf is fantastic, but it may not provide the platform necessary for some of these young men and women who aspire to earn a college golf scholarship. So I think it depends on your mission and purpose as to what role it plays. What we've seen with the 103 tournaments that we're going to run this year in supporting a growing membership of 6,000 is that it is fun, it is exciting, and we are accomplishing our goal because 75% of our kids are moving on and getting an athletic scholarship through golf.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'll add to that. And first of all, thanks to Chad and all of the Druid Hills membership and TJ for putting this together, and Mr. Palmer. And I'd really like to thank whoever spelled my name this way, like the PGA Wanamaker Trophy. It makes me look like I know what I'm talking about up here, which isn't always true. What Stephen said is exactly right. Our mission is to just get junior golfers ages 7 to 18, male or female, interested in playing the game of golf and learning what golf has in store for them in the future, like learning the values of honesty, integrity, and stuff like that. And we kind of take almost, a whole bunch of different ways to get that, and whether that's creating the next generation of American junior golfers and Southeastern junior golfers, or whether that's just creating the next generation of golf professionals or just industry leaders. That's kind of our goal. So it's kind of a realm, and like Stephen said, it just depends on what your mission statement is for your organization.
Earlier, ours is a similar type tour, trying to get the kids the college scholarships just on a more regional basis. Most of our events are nearby: Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana. But I guess our main goal is to give them a chance to play competitive golf, to build the resume to get that collegiate career going onward.
Yeah, the U.S. Kids mission is to have fun and create lasting memories with family interaction. So it's a developmental process, and we start with the younger ages and move on through.
And I think what the Georgia State Golf Association does is just provide an outlet on many different levels to grow the game. We have programs for, beginning level golfers. We run some snag programs. We have girls' golf day events, which introduce girls to the game of golf on a beginning level basis. And then we move them up through our junior sectional program and onto our state championships, which is where the elite level, competitive golfers are. So we're growing the game, providing several different outlets to hopefully get these kids hooked on the game.
Bob?
And we're at the recreational side of the of competition for junior golfers. So as in Little League Baseball, where every kid gets to play, no matter what level skill set you may have, we find a way that peer interaction and role modeling creates, I guess, there's a history to junior golf that would indicate introduction through instruction is the way to create a core golfer and keep a core golfer for life. We tend to feel, and not to be debative about it, but we tend to feel that it's seduction to introduction, and then comes instruction to keep that core golfer. But there has to be something to seduce the young golfer to pick up the golf club and to come out there with their buddies or their girlfriends and play golf. We hope that we might have one of the solutions with PGA Junior League Golf.
Appreciate it. What I like about this panel is that the representation from your child's first golf experience all the way up to the top levels and pre-collegiate player are represented here. I'd be interested to hear from you guys what you think the right age to begin competitive golf is for juniors. When emotionally are children ready for it? What factors, how do you scale, or how would you recommend scaling the expectations for these kids as they get older and perhaps more competitive? Mike?
We used to allow 11-year-olds to play, and we kicked it up to 12 because the last 11-year-old tournament we had two 11-year-olds get into a playoff, sudden death playoff, and on the first hole the father went to his knees praying that his son would make the putt to win. Thought that was a little over the top, so
Did he make it?
Actually did.
Yeah, okay.
He did. So there you go.
God is
There you
great.
go. But no, I think it's just the maturity level that's required to compete at a national level. We just felt 12 was a better number, and actually it was 13 at one point in time. When we changed it, we went from 11 to 13. But then you have Michelle Wee and Morgan Pressel qualifying and playing in the U.S. Women's Open at 12-year-old, and they can't play in the American Junior Golf Association. So I don't think there's a magical number, but ours is 12.
Yeah, and I think, that's a good point. When she qualified at 12, I don't know that there's a real age you can define. I think the parental and the parent and the kid are going to come together and decide. It takes a lot of courage to enter a tournament. We have kids as young as 5 playing, and I guess it's also how you define competition. For a young player, it's just a game, and that they can go out and shoot a really high score, and they think they're successful. I think there's a lot of sort of baggage the adult world brings into a young player. A parent may have an expectation that their child should shoot a certain score, and the child may go out and shoot 10 or 15 higher than that, and they're thrilled. I ask young players all the time, how'd you do 5 years old? That they had a ball, but they had a very bad score. So it's, golf is really, it's an easy game. And I'd spin it a little different than Chuck had said. It's hard to be really good at it, but it's just a ball and stick game. So the child will know, and with the parent will know, and once they have the courage to get out there, then it's just a matter of playing and having fun.
Yeah, we're an organization where we start at 7 and even a little bit younger than that for some of our programs. And although we're on the competition side of things, we still have a ton of programs where you're not competing. And to Stephen's point, I would say we do a lot of focus groups with kids, and I would say 12 and under, they actually really don't like to win or lose. Their parents like to win or lose for them. They just want to go out there, have fun, and learn the game. And then from that kind of 12, 13 and on is where they're really starting to mature and learn the winning and losing aspect of things. So I would say competition, we really try to start at the 12-year-old level and up, but just trying to get kids introduced to playing golf and not learning, the way to win and lose. Just the game itself is got to start younger than that, to be honest.
Yeah, with our programming, our junior sectional program, which we run statewide, I think we kind of get kids introduced starting around 9 years old. Would you say that's right, Randall? 9 years old, we have different age groups. Our state championships are geared towards older golfers. Our boys are between 14 and 17, and girls, we take all ages pretty much starting at 9. But kind of like Blaze said, we have various other programming where, we're introducing the game of golf to girls, as young as kindergartners with our Girls Golf Day program. So, we start young, but the competitive aspect, we don't really get involved with that until they get into our program starting around 9 years old or so. And I think we've seen, some success in that they've been mature enough to handle the competitive aspects with that, even though in that particular program that we do run, it's not necessarily at the highest level. It's more of a loosely run, getting the kids introduced to competitive golf. So get them feel comfortable with that.
I guess an important element would be the definition of competition. We certainly see competition as part of the seduction, part of the attraction of playing any sport. We represent Major League Baseball, the NBA, USTA, the NFL, and the development of youth programs. They all have some type of competitive element to them, because otherwise I'm not so certain the youngsters would be that interested in really attaching themselves to the program. But as you know, let's say T-ball, if you've ever been to a T-ball game, and I hope some of you have, in baseball, you know that it's competition, because they're keeping score, and they're in the field, and they're trying to make outs, and they're trying to beat the other team. There's a very good chance that the first baseman is building a little mound of dirt just to the side of first base and doesn't realize the ball's in play. It's going to be thrown past him before he realizes, my gosh, I was supposed to catch that ball, but he's having fun. And I think there can be fun attached to competition. If you can attach enough fun to competition, you take a little bit of the necessity for courage out of it, and you take a little bit of the intimidation factor out of it. League golf, frankly, is designed, our motto is cradle to grave. I guess cradle is a little too young. Grave is probably a little too old. So too extreme on either side, but I will tell you that the PGA Junior League golf model was designed 9 to 13. It's really 13 and under now, because we have a lot of 7 and 8-year-olds playing, and the demand is that you have to make something more comfortable for my 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. So we'll probably be going with a 10 and under division this next year. And the other big complaint we have is, my son just turned 14. He's loved playing the last 2 years. What do you have for him? So we'll probably have a 16 and under division. I think you find the comfortability factor, and that's what makes the age appropriate.
We could probably have our own 3-day summit on the roles of the parent regarding golf and junior golf. But in a 20-minute period, let's try to talk about, and I understand that different organizations have different functions and roles for the parents relative to the junior golf. Speak about what you feel the best practices for the parents are relative to the upbringing of their kids in the game of golf, and then how your specific organizations handle that or has rules and regulations attached with it.
That's maybe going this direction, because as we keep going this direction, it keeps working backwards from what we're trying to achieve. We are trying to feed these tournaments and these groups. There's no question that core golfers can become elite golfers, and it works in this direction beautifully, I think. We believe that the kids that participate in PGA Junior League Golf will participate in U.S. Kids tournaments, and from those tournaments they will graduate into these other elements. At our level, the parents are incredibly important, because I will tell you that the involvement of parents on a more direct basis with the program is here in PGA Junior League Golf. You have captains. The captains are PGA professionals. They are the general manager of their teams. They can coach those teams and have a hands-on involvement in each of the competitions and matches, or they can delegate those responsibilities to dads and moms, just like Little League Baseball. So if you picture Little League Baseball at the recreational level, it's dads coaching those teams. They don't control the league. There's a league manager. That would be your PGA professional, perhaps, or a group of PGA professionals who are the core of the league. The league is a number of teams that are playing on a regular schedule over a 5 or 6 week period, and it's very important that parents become involved. As a matter of fact, the PGA professionals who really grasp the best practices in this area have realized, I'll take, for example, Hamilton Mill now has 6 teams, their own teams. They have their own league. 105 kids participating out of one club. He says, I can't manage all those competitions and matches. I assign my dads as the coaches. My dads take care of all that. The team moms take care of the snacks and making sure that everybody's got the right schedule and we show up at the right place on the right time. I'm the general manager. And he's done a great job doing that, and he's built a huge program, and he has grown the game through the program. With us, I believe without the volunteerism of parents, we don't grow to the 100,000 kids we anticipate downstream. So.
And that's very similar to other sports. I mean, that
Youth sports, yeah, the other sports that we're involved in, they were all designed around the idea that if you want to do huge critical mass at the introductory level, you have to involve the parents. The parents are the recruiters of your teams. Now, granted, ours relies a lot on peer influence and the buddy system, because from the level there down to us, there are elite golfers at the age of 9 to 13. We want those elite golfers to play junior league golf. Why not? Perfect system is 4-4-4. 4 really good players, 4 novice players, 4 beginner players on your team. It's like Little League Baseball. It doesn't take courage. You're sitting in the dugout with good players. You know you have a good team. So I'm not out there by myself, playing by myself against everybody else. That takes a lot of courage. We want to build that courage through introducing them to a team concept in a league where they're in the dugout. We don't have any dugouts in golf, but they're out there on the golf course with some pretty good peer and role models.
right, Jeff?
Jeff has been introduced directly to it, and I know that we work on the same level.
Yeah, it's a great program. At the Georgia State Golf Association, we've got, tremendous involvement from parents at many levels of our events. With our junior sectional program statewide, a lot of the parents are helping out, volunteering with our section chairman, helping get the kids registered, helping get them started, scored, helping them get around the golf course. And then on at our state championship level, a few years ago, we made a change to where we allowed the rental of spectator carts for parents and families, friends, whoever, and that's been a pretty big thing for us. We used to make them, they would stay on the cart path and not really be involved, and I think in effect that would probably leave some people behind. They didn't feel like walking 18 holes with little Johnny in the 95-degree June heat. So I think with us doing that, it's helped the club and brought some extra revenue to the club, but it's also gotten the parents and family members more involved in the interest in following their children. So we've seen great support, and we try and get them involved in keeping up with the kids.
Jeff, at your level, the parents aren't caddying or anything, the kids are carrying their bags?
Right, the kids carry their own bags.
Okay. John?
Yeah, Bob, we're working off the same point of reference there with the parents. The parents are such a key component to U.S. Kids Golf and all the competitions, and they really wear three hats out there. They're a parent and a spectator. They're a coach occasionally, and they're a caddy. And knowing when to wear each cap is really the important thing out there. It's a wonderful laboratory that goes on out there. So there's a huge component for us as an educational opportunity to teach the parents in a way that is in the culture of U.S. Kids and also in the game. It's in our game, tradition's a wonderful thing as long as it doesn't really hold you back. And I think that, as you had mentioned, Bob, and you really need the parents involved totally. Because they're going to be totally involved with their children as soon as they leave the golf course. The download on the way home from the game, during the game, what is being said, knowing what to say in a positive way, as Dr. Jim had mentioned earlier, the positive self-talk. So U.S. Kids Golf has gotten involved with the Positive Coaching Alliance, which is an organization based out of California that was established by Jim Thompson. And he's got a lot of high-powered athletes involved as spokespeople. It's a great tool for not only professionals and coaches to use, but also for parents to develop a culture of competition that could work in any organization, because it takes a youth sports model, using some of the things in the other sports and driving that down into golf, and it's really a good fit. So. Out of all of the events that U.S. Kids does, there's hundreds of tournaments every year. Occasionally you're going to have some of the high-octane parents that maybe get a little over the top, and you have to understand in competition sometimes that happens. But it gives you, through the Positive Coaching Alliance, a tool to diffuse that, a way to use it as a coachable moment. We all know as coaches that it's from failure that you have the opportunity to learn. And so in a way that all our tournament directors interacts now with the parents, I think is a real positive thing. So the parents need to know when to wear the hat out there. We had a debate at U.S. Kids whether we should allow parents to caddy. This goes back, almost 13 years now. And it did come from Morgan Pressel having qualified for the Open, and that week her dad was caddying for her in the Women's Open. And the very next week she had qualified for the U.S. Junior, but her dad couldn't caddy for her in the U.S. Junior. So we thought, well, that's a little bit of a disconnect. Not, obviously there are two different cultures going on there, but we felt that a caddy is an integral part of the game. And that to really expect 6 or 7 years olds to go out on the course and even come back would be a bit of a stretch. So we felt that was a real positive thing. And I can tell you, through all the years, we have very few really ugly situations. Now, sometimes when we do get some situations that are very uncomfortable, they can be difficult to deal with. But with the skill set that you can develop, I think you can overcome those things, and then as they grow and move on to the other organizations, then they're more qualified or more competent in the competitions. I can tell you on Atlanta Local Tour, I have 7-year-olds sit in front of the table and go over their scorecard and sign the cards and call their scores back in threes to each other. So in a way that they are learning sort of the way the game is played and what the culture.
That's that next step,
Yes.
okay, at the feeder step to that step. They don't have to sign any scorecards. They don't have to add up scores, because there could be mistakes made. And there are so many mistakes that can be made in the game of golf that kids go and play soccer, because I don't have to worry about all the mistakes. Matter of fact, the ball can go by me. I don't even have to kick it. I don't get a penalty. There's nothing going to happen to me. I'm going to play soccer. And this is what's happening. It's a culture change. It's a culture change that we need to look at and study carefully. Intimidation, courage. It takes courage to be up here at this panel, because I'm looking out there at all those coats and ties, and I got to tell you something. You are an intimidating group. And to a youngster, you scare the pants off of them. Do you mean to? No, you love them, and you want this game to grow, and you want them to play, but they see you as these adults, and you scare them, because, boy, you know every rule, and that book is full of them. Now, there's a time at which they have to graduate to signing that card, U.S. Kids Golf, and then to doing everything the way they're supposed to do it as they move to that table, and that is the pipeline that we need to keep sacrosanct. But I will tell you, at the critical mass level, you want to get 1 million kids playing golf, you got to say, hey, nothing scary about this. As a matter of fact, Dad isn't out there with you on the course at this level, because that's one of the great freedoms. Needed a little bit when I'm in individual competition and against other kids who have their dads with them on their bags. I need my dad there then. But in this case, I get to be out there with 2 or 3 of my buddies, and we're the ones playing the game, and the adults have to stay on the cart path. This is great. I love this. It's like the soccer field. I'm out here and I'm having a good time, and they can't touch me, and they can't even talk to me between tee and green. This is fantastic.
As the competition level escalates now, and the kids are developing and getting more focused on competitive play, I worked at a golf camp, junior golf camp, as an intern in college, and we had 28 kids cycling in every week, and it was fun, and we did a lot of really great things. But I distinctly remember a certain individual, a youngster, he must have been 7 years old, with his father standing over him and directing, "You're not leaving here until you make this putt," type stuff going on. As the competition level ramps up, how does the involvement with the parents? I mean, is it? I have to imagine it's much more difficult, because the desire for the parents to impact the game. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I'll start, because we're kind of that first step into competition into golf in the Atlanta area. And again, I think it really just is all depending on what age they are. If you're under the age of 10 or so, you really need a parent there to kind of help you, guide you through the day. You're only 10 years old. I don't think there's anybody in this room that at the age of 10 could go out and carry their bag and walk 18 holes and come back into the clubhouse and say, hey, that was fun. I mean, it's not possible. But then as you graduate and you get to more of the 12, 14, and you're starting to really want to play golf, that's kind of where you almost have to have that disconnect from your parent. And I keep going back to these focus groups that we do, but they're so important, because we get kids in a room with kids only. We don't have parents involved. We do them usually every 3 or 4 years, just to kind of gauge their interests or get their ideas from them. And the number one thing, every time that I've done these since I've been with Atlanta Junior Golf, the number one thing, the reason they play golf is tied every single year. The first thing is I get to play every shot. I don't have to sit out in the dugout or sit on the bench. I get to do it all on my own. And then number 2 is my parents aren't involved in anything that I do. So that always triggers me. In being a new parent, I hope that one day my kids don't say that in a focus group. It takes your heart out every single time. It's like, man, what are parents doing these days that their kids literally just don't want to be with them for 4.5, 5 hours and go out and play golf by themselves? So I think it's important that the kids kind of have that disconnect, but at the same time, it's kind of disheartening to hear that they like that and enjoy that. But it is important for kids to learn that they have to go out and compete on their own. From our side of things, if they want to play in Southeastern or American, they have to learn that you're out there by yourselves. But there's a certain age for that, and I think that depends on kids' maturity level. But again, that usually is somewhere in the age of 10, 11 years old where they start to learn that.
Yeah, our events, our kids start at age 12, and we do encourage the parents to come out there, and I would say probably 75 to 80% of parents, grandparents, and siblings are out there. And we do want them to encourage the kids, but we also don't want them to interfere. And like Jeff mentioned, we do have certain rules as far as keeping the parents on the cart paths and trying to make sure they watch rather than coach. And I have to admit, on occasion, we've had some instances, but usually one morning to the player, we tell the player to tell the parent. And if it comes up again, we do penalize the player. But I've worked with SJGT for 12 years and never penalized a player for that. So it's not that big of an issue, but it does come up on occasion.
All right. Stephen?
We, the parents that we have are our greatest source to talk about the event, give the parents, we have the players in one room and parents in another, so the players have their own meeting, parents have their own meeting, and typically we're talking about our pace of play program and what it means. It's a little different, and for new parents, it's a little foreign. And we talk about code of conduct. And one of the funniest stories was Hunter Mahan played with us, and his dad early on in his career was walking off the tee with Hunter, and he says, "Hunter, you just got to set it and go. Set it and go." One of our interns says, "Stephen, I think we have a problem here with a parent." And sure enough, we had to give Hunter a one-shot penalty for the advice rule because of his father, and that cleared things up pretty quick for him thereafter. But really, the parents have been fantastic at our level. They cannot caddy; they can walk the golf course, just stay out of play. We actually ask them to be a shot ahead. If they really want to help, be a shot ahead and get into that landing area where they can spot everybody's golf balls and be a help to the group. But I think a lot of this revolves on how much staff you have to kind of monitor everything too. We have a lot of officials out there so we can monitor behavior and things like that where other groups may not. And so the rules of the parents may get dictated by how much staff you have to manage your event. But, we just don't have very many problems. When they do pop up, they tend to get heated because someone either knows more about the rules of golf than we do, or thinks our code of conduct isn't a good policy, or we've got a terrible pace of play program. But for the most part, they're our greatest support vehicle.
In defense of your Hunter Mahan story, we do surveys to figure out whether we're doing things right or wrong. I will tell you, in baseball, we've done them, and a predominant answer when it comes back from youth baseball players as to what parts of the baseball game did you enjoy the most. It's usually the interaction with their teammates in the dugout. And everything from I learned to chew sunflower seeds to I learned how to spit the sunflower seeds to, and this is a social moment for them that they will remember the rest of their lives and love the game. One of the predominant negative, what do you least like? Unfortunately, and this is not a study of how to change the game, but perhaps how we parent our kids, is the ride home with dad. So I've always found that to be a really sad commentary. That's one of the lead. I guess it's where we point out, how he's not swinging fast enough, or how he's not keeping his glove down on the ground. In Junior League golf, not too dissimilarly, we ask what the favorite rules are of Junior League golf, and we thought the response would come back predominantly lift clean in place. We love that rule. No out of bounds. We love that rule. Can't play a ball out of a hazard. We love that rule. And the answer comes back, we love the rule that parents can't say anything between tee and green. The kids love that rule. So it's a commentary on what the kids really like, and what they like is to be left alone and to govern themselves and to play the game amongst themselves.
Jeff?
We did have Bob Rotella come to one of our tournaments. He had a daughter that played. And of course, I used that opportunity to kind of corral Mr. Rotella into sitting in on our parents' meeting and actually do the meeting. And so he gave a quick 10, 15-minute spiel about parenting for a competitive golfer at this level, and then went into a Q&A. And the first question from a mother is, she says, "Well, okay, you're a father here, your daughter's playing, what's your role?" And Bob says, "Whatever she wants it to be. This is her event, not my event. Sometimes she wants me to go on the range with her and give her some tips. Sometimes she wants me to walk the golf course. Sometimes she doesn't want to see me for 3 days. And I'm here to support her, so my role is whatever she wants it to be." I thought that was really cool, and I wish I could have taped it. I didn't have the foresight to tape that because I could show that at every meeting. I think she was 17.
You know, I'm just to add to this, it's such a hard topic to really kind of talk about because parent involvement, it can be so different. But there was a question that was raised in the panel before this with the organization, and the thing was, is what's number one way kids get involved with golf? And from our side of things, you know, again, we're only a 1,200 member organization, but it's my parents got me involved, or I learned from my friends' parents, or some sort of an adult figure got them involved in golf. So to say that we can't have them involved all the way through, or have them involved is not the right way, because most of them, that's how they got involved, so they need their parents to kind of help them stay involved. If they kind of get them involved and then fall away, who knows where the kids are going to go from there.
You know, imagine that the parents would play such a big part and bring them to the game and can play just as big a part in
Turning
running
them
them right out. I
Exactly.
mean, you know, some of these points that are being made up here, you know, that ride home, you know, after the softball game, baseball game, golf game, whatever, I mean, if all of us in this room improve that element, consciously make an effort to improve that, and then teach our parents and our other golf pros and people in the business to follow that, I mean, what a difference that makes on its own.
Well,
That's
Dr.
just-
Anisi, you mentioned I think it was the negative sub-statements when he talked about negative chatter. And we have to do that amongst ourselves. If I asked my Saturday golf group at my club to eliminate the negative sub-statements, I would be kicked out of the Saturday golf group, because I think that's about the only statements I ever hear. But for kids to hear those negative sub-statements, even though you see them as constructive on the way home from the game, it's a pain. It's not unlike the youngster who goes out with you on the range if you're his parents. And I can tell you this, a case study, 3 sons, none of whom play a lot of golf. And it's pretty evident to me why. Because when you went on the range with me and you heard about the left arm and you heard about the stance and all they heard was, take out the garbage, make your bed. It was the same voice, it was the same demeanor, and all they're hearing is Dad tell them to do something else. Now, my 19-year-old, for the last 2 years, has been coming out with a buddy of his, and they play junior league golf, scramble style, against me. I can't say a word. He's got a signal. I can't say a word to him about his golf swing, anything. And he is loving the game of golf because he doesn't have to play his ball the whole way through, and they beat me pretty regularly. And man, is it fun then, because Dad can't say a thing, and I'm getting to play the game the way I like to play the game. It's fun now for me. So it's a statement to me.
Yeah, see, the parents are in a tough spot, really, because if they're trying to fix something, like on the drive home, I mean, if they saw their child hit it in the water, hit it out of bounds, or 3-putt, they think something's broken. So their heart's in the right place trying to fix that. That conversation's going to go on regardless of whether they're involved in the game or not. If they watch them play, that download's going to go on. So it's a skill set that if they're wearing their coaching hat, I think all of us that coach, our conversation with that player would be a lot different than what the parents' conversation would be with him in a positive sort of way. So, you know, the download is very, very important, and that positive self-talk, if you can do a 5-to-1 ratio of open-ended questions and let them download, to your point, you know, it belongs to them. The game, whatever the child wants is really what should be given. In a way, they're not broken at the moment, but the parents are trying to fix it. Their heart is always in the right place.
That's excellent stuff there. As a side note, the parent that was really getting on to their kid on that putting green, he's playing on tour now. So talk about disheartening that, you know, I don't know what their relationship is like, father and son, but from what I saw, you know, everybody in here has seen that kind of relationship, and it's very tough to watch as a golf pro, and knowing where to step in. It might be the hardest thing we face of all the different issues in the business. I'd like to open the floor now up to the floor, best practices or questions of our competitions panel. Jeff?
I'm Lissa Bradford with the Tennessee Golf Foundation. My golf camp, you still got the
That's her
scar
golf
on your...
camp. She probably knows who I'm talking about, too.
I also coach Division I golf, and I'm wondering from this side of you guys, have y'all seen any increase in overuse injuries in the players on your tour?
I know of something happening between junior golf and college golf. You know, what I'm seeing at our level is just there's too many, the kids are playing too many weeks in a row. Some of them are playing 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row, competitive golf. It's very unhealthy in my mind, but the allure for getting that exposure or not playing well and feeling that you have to continue to play is overriding their sense of healing or taking time off and getting rest. And it's one of the things that we are very strongly aware of and are going to bring in speakers this year talking about how to prepare and play your best. We bring in nutritionists, and we've done something with a website called AJGAU that has a lot of different expertise up there, whether it's sports psychology, health, nutrition, physical fitness. So there's a variety of things that can get them better prepared. But to your point, just very, from a parent perspective, not a great job in managing their children and weeks on the road and the travel. So it's very concerning.
It's kind of reoccurring theme here is the education of the parents, you know, depending on what level they're at, their role in the whole process to be able to tell your, you know, highly competitive 17-year-old, hey, this is too much golf, or, you know, your youngster, this is, you know, I'm staying out of your way, you enjoy it, you come to me when you need you. But it seems like there's a whole big need of education at each level, and then that's a huge challenge. I mean, how, you know, especially with so many different organizations, how do we come together and say, if your child plays like this and is at this level, this is the kind of support they need? You know?
Well, I would say, you know, we're here for a junior golf summit, and yet, like you said, we're talking a lot about parents, which is kind of sad. But one of the things that we've tried to do at Atlanta Junior Golf is try to get kids to almost, if they have a change of schedule or something comes up, get them to be the ones that have to call and say, hey, Atlanta Junior Golf, I can't, or I need to withdraw from this tournament this morning, or I need to make my schedule change, or whatever it is, just to kind of give them that, again, that, you know, golf is a great sport to learn, you know, values of honesty and integrity and learn life skills. And so try to get them to take on that responsibility where they have to do it themselves. It kind of, you know, it helps a little bit, kind of get the parents to kind of relinquish some of the responsibilities to their kids. But to the question you have, yeah, I've seen a lot of kids have issues with injuries, overuse, and like Stephen said, there was a parent called this year and said, you know, my son needs to withdraw from next week's tournament. He has a shoulder injury, and this was in late August, and I look back at his schedule, and he played 21 one-day tournaments, 2 3-day tournaments, and 2 2-day tournaments, all within a 2-month span. And that was just with our organization. I know the kid plays with Southeastern and with American, so it's just, it's unfortunate, but you know, they need to realize that just because you want to play a lot isn't going to help your game. It's picking the right times to play and stuff like that.
Boys, have you ever thought about limiting events to play in a 30-day period?
The question was, have they thought about limiting the number of events for the kids?
Yeah, we have, and it used to be limited, but then there's some kids that, you know, might really want to play, it might only play in just Atlanta Junior Golf one-day tournaments. So it's hard to limit them because that might be all the opportunities that they get to play. They might not be a member at a home course. You know, with Atlanta Junior Golf, of our 1,200 members, about 70% of those aren't members at a course. So this is their only chance to get to play unless they go play a daily fee at a public facility, which we all know can be quite substantial at some point in times. So it's kind of hard to limit a kid to say, hey, you can only play in these amount, 5 or 6 throughout the summer, when that might be their only time to get on the golf course.
Plus, this is a competitive panel, competition panel, and that word stretches across the fact that for Blaze's operations, there are options. So the second he limits a player, they go and start playing the other tournaments that he's not competing against to get participants, but there are always options. And so they'll go and they'll play in the other tours, in the other tournaments, and he's losing play to other, the kid isn't playing any less. So now all of a sudden you have that, where's the balance, you know?
We actually do limit our members to 5 tournaments, even though we have 100 scheduled. They are limited to 5 open events. Now, if they qualify up for our invitational type events, of which there are 10 more, they can play in those. But we do set some limits on that.
Additional questions from the floor?
This is not truly a question, but my youngest daughter plays competitive volleyball. Atlanta Boom is our club team. And 4 years ago, we, joined the team and so on and so forth, and the parents, were out of control. The serves out and hands in the air and so on and so forth. So the director of Atlanta Boom came up with an idea. He had someone come in and train the parents on how to be a parent of a child that's in a competitive situation. And that first year was volunteer, and every year since then it's been mandatory for parents to attend this particular training. If you don't attend, your child cannot play Atlanta Boom. And since they made it mandatory, I've seen a whole difference in the parents and how they react to their child and how they're playing and so on and so forth. So I guess my thought is maybe we need to, because we're not going to eliminate the parents, forget about that. But maybe we need to train them. Maybe we need to find a way to pass on this information that we're talking about, because all of us in here are trainers and we know how to handle our own children. But there's other parents who do not, that have never had any training whatsoever other than what they see on TV and how the coach reacts to the child on television or to the player on TV. So maybe, the thought is maybe some type of coach's training for the parent. And the point that Steve made, I think that was great when Mr. Rotella, that was a coachable moment for every parent in that room. I'm sure it impacted every parent at that particular event and that particular tournament and how they handled their child. But for the ones that missed it, they just, they missed it. And I had to go back. Chad mentioned my father was a PGA professional. I'll never forget, I was 13 years old, hitting balls on the range, and a guy came up to my dad and he said, "Hey, pro, Jeff seems to play a little worse when you watch him. I think you're making him nervous." And they didn't know I was paying attention. And my dad said, "Well, he better get used to it because I'm going to be there every round." and so I had to get used to it. That was, the way he did it, but I had to get used to it. So I did get used to it and started playing, brother. But the point is, he didn't realize that was a terrible coaching moment for me. So.
The NBA spent about 6 years at one point with a junior NBA, junior WNBA program. And the basis was a support program for all of the recreational basketball leagues that were out there, because they all revolve around and depend upon volunteer parent coaching, refereeing, and of course the fans, the spectators. And what they did was create a series of guides, a parent's guide to youth basketball, a coach's guide to youth basketball. A lot of times you end up being a coach of a youth basketball team and you've never conducted a practice, don't know how to conduct a practice, but you're named the coach. So it was a coaching guide, there was a refereeing guide, an official's guide, all for parents, and very well received. And I'm not so certain that golf wouldn't be benefited through, because you have such expertise. I mean, I see Susie Whaley hit it there. So from the competitive side all the way to Dr. Anisi, from the psychological side, you put together a panel to produce some guides that are distributed to, and some of them will be read and studied and some won't. But the points made, the testimonials and those things are so profound, it's hard for a parent not to see themselves in that and say, my goodness, what can I do to improve? What's a better way to handle an inflammatory situation? And I think that would benefit golf, yeah.
I had just asked my friend Jeff Ages this at the break, and this is a perfect forum, I think, over here. Some of the parents, as well as a couple of my peers, start setting expectations of what it's going to take to get to a scholarship level and a college level. I know it's been discussed. My daughter's 16. She can break 80. I heard she can get a scholarship. Can you clarify or detail a little bit before I open my mouth? Because I've avoided the question because I don't know. And they all want to come and ask me at these tournaments. So do you feel comfortable in answering that question from the male and the female, Division I, Division II, whatever?
I would, we do a junior golf, a college golf day seminar each year with Atlanta Junior Golf in conjunction with the Georgia PGA. And every year, Coach Hepler from Georgia Tech is always there. He always comes, and the number one thing he says out of the panel, when he's sitting there, is if your son or daughter or you are in this room and you're 13 or 14 and I haven't called you or I haven't contacted you, you're not playing for Georgia Tech. He starts recruiting kids when they're 12 years old, 12, 13 years old, and he already has them ready to go by the time they're 15, and that's just the way it is. And that's the same with Georgia, and pretty much the same with Kennesaw State and Georgia State. Any Division I school, if they haven't reached out to you by the time you're, a sophomore in high school, there's just no way. But the good thing is that there are a lot of schools out there at Division II, Division III, NAIA, all across the board that you can play college golf. To think that you're going to play Division I, it's really not. Unfortunate. This is with Atlanta Junior Golf. Obviously, with American Junior Golf, it's completely different. But I would say maybe 10% of our organization goes on to play in American Junior Golf events, and probably less than 0.001% of that is going to go on to play in Division I school. So, from what I'm trying to say is that there's opportunities for anybody, especially a girl, that wants to play college golf. It's out there for them. They just got to find the right niche for them. It might not be at the highest level.
Could you clarify, is it a 5-gen?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think one of the best vehicles would be to get, and I don't know if it's just in a CD format or it wasn't a book, it was the Ping American College Golf Guide, and it spells everything out. From stroke averages. As a matter of fact, part of their program is talking about stroke averages per conference and everything. So I think that would be a great tool for someone looking at what is it going to take and what's the road to college golf look like.
Well, I can use one example. One of the girls that played with us, her first event, she was 14 and she shot 100. Around 100 both days. She kept playing, and she ended up going to South Carolina. Now she's on the LPGA Tour. And that's something I tell all the parents of both boys and girls. The opportunities are out there. They may not be at that level right now, but give them time, and they can, like Blaze mentioned, the scholarships are out there. So.
All right, folks. I'd like to thank the competitions panel for serving great information here.